Hello everyone, it's Amy and welcome back for week 19 of Crafting for Pleasure. So this is a part 2 and there may be a part 3 for this one. This is our Victorian vessel or Shakespearean. I don't remember what I decided to call it. But so I have gone through and did a little bit since we were here last time that we had kind of walked through. I went ahead and I rolled over the velvet and sewed it across the top. And what I did was, except for these first two, I left these first two strings here in case I wanted to adjust this portion a little shorter or taller. So that's my gather for right here. So I left those two, but the rest of them, I went ahead and I gathered it as far as I wanted to. We'll look here where you can see easier. I just gathered it up to how deep I wanted it. And remember, they were all sticking off like this. And then I used that thread on my needle and I used that to sew. So I went ahead because I left this one and I started with the first one and I sewed this way, and then the next one I sewed it down this way. I just, kept that folded over, and then when I got to here and went this way, I would have had to go that way and not had enough left. So this one was long enough. I came over two of them, and so when I got to this string here, I could go ahead and sew it up here. So, but that way I didn't have to use any extra string and I didn't have to throw that all away. And so I was happy with how that turned out. I did go ahead and put a cross stitch here all the way down. I used a pink pencil. Let's see. Here it is. So I got this at Joann's. It's a dressmaking pencil, and it was said it was disappearing. So I couldn't remember if it was water or heat, because it doesn't say, but it did say it was supposed to disappear, but I can't remember how it was supposed to disappear. So I first tried getting rid of it. I drew a line here and here because I wanted my cross stitches to be the same distance. And I'm really good at making them, like get smaller and smaller or bigger and bigger, like not having them even. And I wanted this to be even. So I drew the lines on there, and then I tried water to get them off. I tried a damp washcloth. That didn't take it off. So then I tried my iron. That didn't take it off either. So it's on there very lightly. The damp can't say that. The damp washcloth did, I think, maybe take it off a little. So I'm thinking maybe it should have been a little wetter. And I will try that later. If it doesn't come off, I think what I'll just do is I'll just take a fabric marker and so that I know that it's permanent, and I will just draw that line, those lines back on there with the fabric marker, and that will just be part of my design. So all I really did was I went ahead because we had already gathered this up and, we had sewn it together and everything. So all I did really was I did the fold over. I rolled it over twice so that we didn't have a raw edge. And I did that all the way around. And then I did sew with an invisible stitch. I sewed down both sides and put the cross stitch on there. And that's as far as I've got as far as any sewing goes. And then I did decide I definitely am going to use the salt container like that we were using to wrap this around the last time. So what I did with that was I went ahead and cut out most of the top, left just a little bit, and then I just put little slices all the way around and folded it down and then taped it with some masking tape to make that nice and flat. And then because, remember, it wasn't really quite tight enough, I wrapped some batting around it, put a little bit of glue just here and there. And then in order to stuff it, because now it's going to fit pretty firmly, so in order to stuff it inside here without this moving or bunching or anything like that or catching on the inside, I stuck a plastic baggie on it so it will slide down in there easily, and then I can pull the plastic baggie off once I get it in there. But then I got to thinking about that, and I thought it's not going to be super tight, but it is going to be a little tight. And so I think that this right here this may catch. So I'm thinking I better cut that off so that it doesn't catch. And I'm hoping that once I cut it off, I'll be able to get the plastic bag back on there again. Because the plastic bag did fit a little bit tight. But so I'm just going to make sure that I don't catch the edge of the batting so that it doesn't catch it and pull it up. But it is glued on. There we go. Alrighty, so now this plastic will just make it easier to put in there. And when you're trying to stuff plastic bag on something like this where it is fairly tight, I cut the corners off the bottom. I just cut a little piece off each corner. The reason I did that is to let the air out. So when you're trying to slide it on there, you're not getting all that air pressure built up in the baggie. That lets the air get out and lets it slide on much easier. It's not quite long enough. So I may have to use I have another plastic baggie in case I feel like we're going to need it. So then the next thing I thought was, now how am I going to, like obviously I don't want that to be my inside. And so I went ahead and I got a piece of paper, and this was just out of my scraps. So I think I'm going to put this in here. I liked the coloring along with that. It kind of goes with the outside. It does have some flowers on it, which I actually could cut those off or put them on the underside, but I kind of like them there, so I'm going to leave that there. And I think in order to, I'm not going to do anything with the bottom. The bottom is just still cardboard. But I could like put a circle in the bottom of colored paper or whatever. I'm not going to do that, so that's not going to bother me, and it's a vessel, so I'm going to be putting stuff in there anyways. But I do like the color of the cardboard, so that does not bother me. But I think that I am going to put a little bit of glue on this. I have to find some glue. Oh, you know what? I'll just use stick glue. It catches a whole lot faster. So I don't want to put it across the top because, let's see, do I want those? I'm going to put the flowers at the top. Because the paper is a little too long. So I am going to have to cut off part. I better do that before I put the glue on it. We need to cut off some of this because the paper's too tall. Like I said, this was just out of my scrap box. And if I want to keep the flowers, I'm going to put it in upside down so that I don't cut off the flowers when I cut it. Push it all the way down to the bottom, and then just... And I am going to put some fabric around the top. I could have put fabric inside, but I really didn't want to have fabric on the inside. I was afraid that, you know, I don't know exactly. I really want this for like my Oats jar. But I didn't want things to get caught on the fabric. So I thought paper would be easier also, because the paper is sturdy. It's just going to go in there, and I'm going to push it along the sides and be done with it. Whereas the fabric might be harder to get inside there. I think I need to trim it up just a little bit better, because now I've made a mess of it. Okay, you know what I'm going to do is, because that's my bottom and I do want that straight also, I'm going to grab my guillotine cutter real quickly. Hold on just a second. Okay. I do like a guillotine cutter. It's my favorite. And guillotine cutters or the other type of cutters, that is really all just preference. There is no one is better than the other. Okay, so I don't want to take off too much. I just basically want to take off those choppy edges. There we go. Now it'll be straight across the bottom. So now we can put the glue right across the top. And just in a few places. I do want it like that. I think I want it all the way across the bottom. And now I'm going to hope that we get it in there, because now it's going to be very sticky. I'm going to hope that that's going to be all right. All right, so I want the flowers on the inside. Kind of make it a little smaller, but really kind of hope it doesn't touch too much. There we go. And then start with the other side and start pushing it around to there. Like that. I'm going to go inside here and just give it a good press. And because there's not going to be anything, you know, super tough or rough on that inside, you know, it's going to be okay just like it is. If it was something where maybe we're going to put scissors or something in there, you might want to use the fabric, or you may want to use, like, cover it with a plastic coating, cover your paper with a plastic coating so that it keeps your paper a little safer. Okay, so now we need to cover this edge because we don't want to see that. So what I was thinking was that because I'm kind of lazy at, you know, sewing and stuff, I don't really care for it that much. I thought that this sleeve would fit over there nicely, and it already has a finished edge on it. So I'm going to cut it. I'm going to put the finished edge on the inside, fold it over this way, because we're going to be covered up out here. But I want to cover up all of that. So I'm just going to, should I put any marks on it? I think I'm just going to eyeball it. I can only get this wide. So I'll cut there. There we go. So I've got about 1/4 of an inch on the other side of that. So I'm going to try and keep that all the way across on the other side of that seam right there. Make it fairly straight. Oh, I guess it doesn't make that big of a difference because that part's going to be covered. So hopefully that will, maybe I'm not right. Because if, let's see. I wanted to put this on the outside, and I wanted to roll this over like this. And the problem is there's not enough there. There's not enough width there. So I should have maybe where I had to cut it here because of the seam, that still would be quite hard. Let's see. Well, I'm going to try it anyways. I'm going to come over here, line this up. I'm going to give myself like 1 inch or so. This will be on the inside. Then we'll have a little bit to fold over, and then we'll need some to be on the outside. So I'm going to come to about maybe like here and just cut it straight. Okay, and see what we can do with it. Put that there. And then fold this over. All right. I kind of wanted to do it so I didn't have to do any kind of sewing. That's why I wanted to use the sleeve of that shirt. But I'm thinking maybe I just do want to cut it here and then glue it on the inside. Let's see. Three in One is a lot like Fabri-Tac, which is also Beacon's Fabri-Tac. They're very much alike, and it is a very stinky glue. It is a, I don't know what you would call it. Now I might not be able, this may be just too stuck up in there. And I've heard you can put acetone nail polish in with this, and it will make it flow a little better. Yeah, this is not going to work, but it's a kind of a dryish type glue, so it works fairly well. That's why to me it's just like the Fabri-Tac. It smells the same, it seems to work the same, but this is just plain old clear tacky glue. This is a wet glue, and it may soak through our fabric, but I'm going to just go ahead and put some glue around the top edges, and then I will spread it out. Because if you have lumps of glue and you're trying to glue fabric, if you have big, like, globs, I guess I should say, of glue, and you're gluing fabric, those globs definitely will soak through your fabric. And so if you spread it out flat, if it's a wet glue, like Elmer's glue or Eileen's Tacky glue, if you spread it out, it won't soak through as bad. So I'm just going to, and this glue is a little bit old, so it's quite tacky already. Normally when you first get them, they're very kind of wet, but the older they get, the thicker they get, which in this case is going to kind of help us a little. I'm going to cut the seam off completely. There we go. And I'm just going to lay it down and line up. And I know it's hard for you to see what I'm doing, but I'm just going to try and line up the seam with the top edge here. And by cutting it open like that, instead of leaving it round, and letting this part stand up because the whole thing is open, it's going to stop those puckers for now at least. So when I was trying to first put it in there and it was puckering because it was already sewn together and I was having to bend it over right away, here I can leave it stand up straight like this, and so it's not puckering, it's flat on the inside of this container. I'm going to, see, I'm not going to take any of that off because that will mess me up. Always think about things before you cut them, because I was just going to cut that off and that would have not been necessarily a good idea. Alrighty, so I am going to cut this side off right here because I've made it to where I need to be. And I'm going to let that set for just a second and dry. All right, set that aside for just a second and let's see what we've got here. Okay, so this is going to be our inside. For this one, I think that I have decided, instead of letting the whole thing stand up straight, I think I am going to sew this down a little bit, like this. So this will kind of pull down, this will stand up straight in the back. and this will pull down a little bit and be open in the front. I think I do want it to be like that. This is kind of neat, but I just like it better this way. So I am going to really quickly stitch these bottom pieces right here, right to the front of this jacket, which it looks like a Victorian jacket to me. I think I need a cream color thread. This, I guess, will work. Kind of check and just make sure that it's sharp, and make sure some of my needles have glue bumps on them, or some of them even somehow have burrs on them. So I just want to make sure it's going to be one that goes through easy. So you just give it a feel, make sure it's a sharp one and not a dull one. And then we'll just get a nice long piece of thread. I prefer to not run out. I don't overdo it, but I try to make sure I don't underdo it, because it makes me upset if I underdo it. So then I just take my thread and pull it between my fingers, and then line up the eye. And there we go. And I want it to be double, because this is a vessel and it will be getting used. I want that double thickness just to make sure that it's okay. For some reason, there's something going on here with my thread. I'm going to get rid of that. Let's see. I'm going to cut that off. I'm not sure what was going on with the thread there, but it actually just came right off. Okay, so pull my two threads even again. They're still not even. There. Just wrap it around your finger with the wrap part in the front, what you started with in the back, the two tails, and then just roll those tails over top of the other until you get a bit of a roll. Then grab that and pull it down. That's how I knot my thread. All right, so I want to not have this rough edge when I'm sewing. Set that down for a minute. I'm going to fold it in just a little bit. Fold it in about 1/4 of an inch. And then I'm going to fold it in about 1/4 of an inch again. Now at this point part, it's going to get skinnier as it goes to here, because that's already sewn. That's okay. Then I'm just going to take that. And remember how I said any sewing that we want to do on this jacket part, we definitely want to do that prior to putting our hard cardboard center in. I think I'm going to wrap it even one more time here at the bottom. I'm going to bring it right out to the edge. Yes. All right, and because I sewed this way, I'm going to go ahead and put my knot underneath right here. And then I am just, going to do, I believe this is what they call a whip stitch, where you just kind of whip it around and around. And I keep poking myself. Luckily, it's not super pokey. And I'm not didn't poke myself very hard. I'll just go around. And I want to go all the way up to make sure that it does hold it down. I also have that loose knot at the other end. I didn't knot the thread itself at the other end. So, and here I am going to have to knot the thread, but I'm going to do it one time. Go through the fabric, then go through your loop and give it a tug. Okay, because I don't want to, if I have to take it out, I don't want to have to, it's hard to get out if you knot around your thread, or I mean if you knot around your fabric and use the fabric as like you go through the fabric before you make your knot, then if you have to take it out, that knot's kind of hard to get out. So alrighty, now this one, and always one side is easier than the other. If you're right-handed or you're left-handed, it depends on which side would be harder than the other. But so I'm going to fold it about 1/4 of an inch, and then again about 1/4 of an inch. And I'm going to put it down here and see what it looks like. I do want to make sure, I brought this kind of out towards the edge, so I want to bring this one out towards the edge. And I am going to do it again, just like I did the other one. But I want to make sure that this is, I've got like a pucker here, and I don't want that pucker, so move that, start over. It doesn't hurt to start over. Alrighty, I'll leave that one right up to about there. And then I'm going to look at about where this one is, because I want these to be about even here. Here's my thread. Hopefully I did put, yes, I did put a knot in it. So that looks about right there. Going to come up from behind. So now if I were to have to take this out, all I would have to do is cut that knot off, or even cut a piece of this thread, and that knot would pull right out. And then just whip around that edge. And I did not pull, I didn't pull that first one tight, and it's just kind of very loose there. So I need to go back and get that second stitch and pull it tight. And then see, yeah, okay, when I pulled the third stitch, that did pull it tight. All right, I want to kind of look at this and make sure that they're looking about the same, and they are. So then just finish this up. And this is just something that when you do these things and you're just, you know, you just sit in your chair, you just take some time. I don't want that maroon to stick out there, so I'm going to pull this down. Just take your time and just have a good time. Just enjoy yourself. If you need to take it out, take it out. It's not a big deal. Now what I am going to do is I'm going to pull these two together right here to keep them lined up, and just to make it just a little sturdier at this top portion. And my thread is getting very, very short. And that's what I was saying, how I like to try and make sure that I have enough, because I want to make sure that when I knot it at the end, that my knot, I have enough to knot. Okay, I need to come through one more time right here. And that should do it. Put one knot at the top. And then I can always, once it's done, if I feel like this one knot was not enough. Now, I don't have enough thread left. There's a little loop right there. I cannot pull this out, turn it around, and put my point through there to pull my needle through. So I'm going to take the back of the needle and put it through that little loop, and then pull it. If the needle goes all the way through, you're good. If the needle doesn't go all the way through, then just cut the thread at the needle and pull it through. Cut that close. Okay, so that's what that's going to look like. And I do like that. Okay, so now give this one more little push. And then fold it over. Now you could sew this to the cotton, to make sure that it stays there. I'm going to put a little bit of glue because obviously you see how fast I sew. But see, that makes a really nice top there. And because our thing's going to come over the edge, it doesn't matter about this at all. I'm going to put some glue to hold it. And because this is going to be covered by the jacket, I'm not going to bother trying to spread it out, especially on cotton. And if it does seep through the fabric, because there's little globs of glue, it doesn't matter because it's going to be under the jacket, so you will not see it. But I'm just going to do it all the way around so that I know that I've got it. And the other nice thing about this glue not drying super fast is the fact of once I get this done, I can look at it and see if I need to pull it down somewhere, if it's a little loose or anything like that. And I'm going to put a little bit here. Alrighty. And there, see how nicely, because we put that in there nice and flat and gave it, and this is t-shirt material, which also makes a really big difference. So it makes it so that it's just very, t-shirt material is kind of very forgiving. And I do want to put a little bit of glue right there. Pull it over to get rid of that little crease. And so there we go. Give that a push. I think I'm going to loosen this one up just a little bit. And I think I want to pull this. I don't like the way that looks right there, so I'm going to kind of pull that down a little bit. Maybe I'll just kind of do that all the way around. A little bit more right there. Okay. And there we go. So now we need to slide this into the jacket portion. And my question is the top going to slide well enough? If this starts catching, we're going to put another plastic bag over it. Just easily try and slide these together. And it should, the gathered portion should come all the way here, right to the edge here, to make it the right length here. So we're going to, I think that does have it. So there's what we look like from the top. And here's what we look like from the front. And the one thing that we still have to do is take the plastic out. And then we're going to glue the white cotton to the cardboard on the bottom. So just And again, this one, I don't care if I have globs of glue, because if it comes through the cotton, you're not going to see it because it's the bottom, and you're not going to see it because we're going to put a piece of cardboard over it. Well, like I said, if you get some of your glues that wind up getting a little bit thick, they would be good to use for, and I want to make sure that I've got my red about right at the, okay. Just put pleats in it. Just kind of fold it over like this, wherever you need to. We could put a dab of glue in each one of those. We definitely need this front portion to be very even here across the front, because we've got this going on, because we've got the edge of here. So we could just take a little bit of glue and do this on each one of the pleats to keep them kind of flat. Even though we're going to put the cardboard on, that will keep them flat as we're putting the cardboard on, so they don't make a bunch. And in the last video, I showed you how I had cut a piece of cardboard out of a cereal box that we were going to cover this with to make it nice and smooth. So here's my circle that is going to go right there. And again, don't forget, if you're cutting out of any kind of a box that has a shiny surface, you do want to make sure that you sand that shiny surface off. You can use an emery board, a piece of sandpaper, but go ahead and try and get that shiny surface off of there, because your glue doesn't like to stick to the shiny surface as well as a non-shiny surface. The color doesn't make a difference if you don't get all of that off. It's just the shine that makes a difference. I want to make sure that I get this out to the edge of the cardboard, because that will make a difference in the way that it sticks later. You want to make sure that those edges are stuck down. Then we're just going to kind of center it and give it a good push. And then what I will probably do when we're done here is I'll throw some of those little like glass pebbles in here in the bottom, just to put a little weight on it and just to hold this all very flat overnight. And that will give you a really nice flat surface. I don't want to get this glue all over my fabric, so try and get that off my hands. And there we go. So that's, and then I think what I'm going to have to decide, oh, I'm so sorry. Hopefully this was not out of, hopefully the whole thing wasn't out of view. I have to decide if I'm going to just put a little fabric glue around here to glue that together, or if I want to just take some stitches all the way around. And I'm really not sure what I want to do about that, but I do want to put something to hold those two together right at that point. So this doesn't eventually just sag all the way down, but I like the way that this looks. It does pretty much have enough strength. And then I need to look, do I need to, see, I can make this shorter by pulling on the string, because I haven't knotted that gather up yet. So I can make that shorter like that. Let's see what that looks like. So we've got that a little bit shorter. Or we can lengthen it out a little bit. And I think I like that right about there looks right. So let's see what it looks like here. And I'm going to look at it from the front standing up. I like that too, which looks pretty much the same as laying down, but I just wanted to make sure. So now what we can do is, I want a needle with a bit of a larger eye and a point. This will work, because I'm just going to cut off the knot, because remember when I gathered all these up, I went ahead and put a knot in the end so that they could not pull out. And so all I need to do right here is just go in okay, one thread through and then put a knot. I'm going to make 2 of them just for safety or stability, however you want to say that. There we go. Cut that off short. And then do the same thing on this side. And this is going to be about done. Now I could glue maybe some gems on the front. I do have some sew-on gems that I could have sewn on if I had not already stuck it to the cardboard, but now I've done that. So I'm kind of limited as to, I could try and sew through the cardboard, and then it would be through the paper and everything else. I don't think that that would be a very good idea. But I think gluing would work okay, using the right kind of glue. If you use like the Beacons 3-in-1, that's a very sturdy glue that it sews plastic very well. The little gems I have are plastic gems, so I could glue some on there if I wanted. There. Let my needle fall. There we go. And now if I wanted, I could even maybe turn those back and sew them. I don't want to, but you could. You could adjust it however you want. I could sew it together here. I had thought about sewing the whole thing together like that, but I just really didn't want it standing up that tall. I like it folding back like this. That's what makes it look like the kind of Victorian jacket to me, is the folding back of the collar. So that's pretty much it. I'm going to put something heavy in it to make sure that that stays down well. And then this is going to, I will put something here, but this is going to then go on my desk to collect all of my little bits of thread or fabric, and I can just throw them in there, and when it gets full or when I need just a little bit of fabric for something, I can reach in there to get it. And that's the nice thing, is I do have something big enough to reach my hand all the way to the bottom. So I've had a few things like this that I've done and you can't reach the bottom, which is not that big of a deal. You dump it out, but I really do like the way that that looks. I think that it turned out really cute. So, and I hope if you make one, I hope that you have a good time making it. And remember, this was going to be a little art project for me, and actually I was going to frame it. So, you know, when you go to do things, if you try this and you think, I don't really want to make it into a vessel, I want to do something else with it, then do something else with it. So, you know, you can always change your mind in the middle of a project and change whatever direction you're going in, because I'm very happy with the way this turned out, and I had no idea that this is what it was going to be when I started. So thank you very much for stopping by. I really do appreciate each and every one of you. And I hope that you all have an outstanding day. Bye-bye.